Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fully Corked podcast. My name is John, and I am joined by my co-host Charlie.
Heyo.
And we got a fun one today, or at least I hope we do. We're going to be drinking some Pinot Grigio, which I know Charlie's excited about. But I do know that you are partial to the Grigio.
Oh yeah.
Pinot
Grigio. I love Pinot Grigio. It's my favorite wine. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to test it. We picked this bottle up maybe a week and a half ago now. I think this was on the lower end of the price range from the Trader Joe's liquor store. I will be doing the blind tasting this week. So if you want to introduce it without giving away anything, I think it was like an $8 bottle or something. It was a sub 10.
No, not even. I think it was like $5.99 for me.
Really?
Yeah, this is good. This is going to be really exciting. We are drinking the Villa Borghetti Pinot Grigio. So this is from Italy, and it does have the DOC designation on the label, which means that it is government regulated within Italy, which is a good sign for wine you should be drinking. It's not quite DOCG. That's like the highest level of scrutiny a wine could be under, but we got the second highest level from Italy. So getting that for
$6,
sub $10, yeah, $6 in Trader Joe's is exciting. That means we should hopefully at least not think this is terrible for that price point. Charlie, I see you've been sipping a little bit. Do you want to just let it rip?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone wrong with this assessment before, but I let me take one more sip just to make sure, but there's one flavor that stuck out in a big way right out of the gate. I mean, it's green apple, right? Green apple, is that what you're getting? Yeah. So
it's green apple, and then I get pear too.
Stealing my thunder, John. I think I would have gone with pear too. There's definitely, I feel like it leans acidic. I guess what I'm having a hard time with is kind of the sweet versus dry ratio here, because it is acidic, you know. I guess I wouldn't say, especially for a cheap bottle, I feel like what worries me in a taste profile is if it's just hammering you with the sweet, but I feel like I'm getting some acid, like some, say, oh man, this is always, I need one more sip. I don't want to go wrong on calling lemon or lime here, because there's one of them.
I'll hold my tongue this time. Sorry about stealing your thunder on pear, but that was the number one tasting.
The pear was number one?
Borghetti.
No, or oh my goodness, I don't know if I've dropped an F-bomb out here. Scratch, bleep it. I thought green apple was really there. I'm going to go with, it's a 50-50. I'll go with lemon. Is it lime?
I think it's either.
It's either?
It's
okay,
citrus.
Okay.
It's either.
I'm not getting much minerality. You know, like there's no, I mean, I feel like this is more common in red, but like there's no pepper, I'm not getting like a spice taste really.
I think it's probably safe to say this because it's a cheap bottle, but this is an uncomplex wine. Similar to our Big Churn Chardonnay. It is an honest Pinot Grigio.
And it's, I think to that point, it's a Pinot Grigio. It tastes like a Pinot Grigio. There's no tricks about this bottle. And it's, you know, I like it, but I also like a lot of Pinot Grigio. So I'm not, I mean, what do you think about it in terms of where it would stack up against other wines? Because the way I'm looking at this right now, Italian wine, has some level of verification. It's sub $10 at Trader Joe's. It's the summertime. You're out of your mind if you're not drinking a little Pinot Grigio in the summer. Super refreshing, nice. I feel like it would actually complement a lot of meals here too, kind of as you're like, you know, there's just not so much going on that I think it could be a good palate cleanser type. I'm not sure exactly what pairing I'd go with.
So I have a little something to add here. Yeah, it is nice. So Pinot Grigio for me is not my go-to white wine. My favorite is Sauvignon Blanc, and it's not really close. Like that is the one that I will always order. And that airs a little drier on the spectrum for your average white wine. Like that's probably like the least sweet wine. But then right behind that slots in Pinot Grigio typically. It's typically like interchangeable with like a Chardonnay. And I would prefer this to like a thick buttery Chard. Like I don't love the butter. It's too rich for me. So the Pinot Grigio is nice for a few reasons. It's fruity, but it's crisp. So it's not overly sweet.
It's not sitting. I mean, I feel like it's not super tannic. It doesn't sit in my palate.
Not
ever.
At all.
Yeah.
No, it is not. It is supposed to be in and out of the palate. Like just like a pit stop in a Formula One race. Like this thing is not staying there. Something I did learn about it that makes me somewhat intrigued.
Proceed.
And subconsciously I actually prepared for this podcast because I found out. Oh, side sip, side sip.
For the viewer listener right now, this is our first podcast and a podcast. I'm about to jinx it too, where we always have both of our videos going on our phones, but rarely can John see me. And we're in this lucky 5-minute stretch right now where my camera is actually working, and so I'm throwing some curveballs at him, seeing if he's awake over there.
Hey, cheers to you. I'm gonna side sip right,
dude.
back.
I might take off this background blur too, just so you can see it all. This might be a big risk for us, but okay. Continue. Sorry, I derailed you.
I went shopping because I found out about a pretty exciting pairing that a lot of people will pair with the Pinot Grigio. And by a lot of people, I mean I read one blog and it said that some people will pair a Pinot Grigio with mac and cheese.
Grigio and cheese. Why not?
Which is my signature dish. And so, feeling inspired, I went to the store earlier today and I actually bought all of the ingredients for my signature mac and cheese dish, which is kind of breaking what I've been doing health-wise. I've been eating extremely clean over the past week.
Really nice.
Basically no carbs, I'm not eating any seed oils, which are apparently really bad for you. Pretty much just eating like healthy fats like nuts and then
avocado, dude. Avocado.
I've been having guac with like ground beef. Just like actually like super clean, dude, super healthy.
Let's go.
No soda. Absolutely no soda.
What about I know this, I kind of think I know where you'd go in response to this, but what about like an energy drink? That's also just totally out, right?
It's out. I'll stick to coffee and really like espresso now. Like I'll make like I do French press coffee in the morning, and then in the afternoon for a pick me up, I'll drink espresso. But I've also been on a kick where I pretty much drink like a full glass of water before any consumption of coffee. And typically on my weekdays, I hit the gym before I even have a sip of coffee. So, and from what I've learned, you should probably start your day with water and wait at least 45 minutes before any other consumption of food or beverage. So
I've heard, with the exception of water, right? Because as somebody, I mean, I get up and I usually attempt to do what you're describing because I've read, like I couldn't cite my sources, but the same thing where caffeine actually is not, it doesn't do anything until you've been up for a little bit. Like you can trick yourself. Maybe there's some placebo and like I'll have a sip of coffee and I'm more awake, but water wakes you up better, I guess, in the morning. Lubes up the system, gets you ready to rock.
Yeah, but here's my qualm with my clean eating. I got sick this week for the first time in like a year. I never get sick. And like, who gets sick in the middle of the summer?
What type of sickness?
Just the classic cold. I mean, literally, like I wake up yesterday morning with every single symptom you can have. I have the scratchy throat, the runny nose, which is probably my least favorite. I've got like an achy back, an achy neck, you know? And then I'm like, I cannot regulate my body temperature. Like I'm freezing and then I go throw on slippers and sweatpants. And then I'm like so hot flashes, sweating. It is, yeah, like every possible like level of sick. And all I've been doing is eating super healthy and getting like a bunch of rest because I'm doing nothing.
Dude, get you some mac and cheese. Like that's
what I'm thinking. Like if I feel better tomorrow, I'm gonna be real sketched out about this whole healthy eating.
Dude, like a nice like big hot meal like that is always good. When like if you have appetite when you're sick, sometimes it's like tricky to put stuff down. I do have one question for you about your symptoms though. You said the runny nose is your least favorite symptom. And I would ask you this. Is your nose also congested? As in it is affecting and impeding you breathing through your nose? Because that is, of all kind of like minor symptom ailments, my least favorite. I find it so frustrating. It totally disrupts my sleep. The runny nose piece that's really brutal is you start to like chap your nose and it hurts and it's like a total pain in the ass. But like when I'm like congested and backed up, that's what I hate the most.
I will still choose the runny nose as the worst symptom over congestion simply because the amount of inconvenience that it causes, especially to a sickly person, Yet another side
Dude,
sip. Oh, and
as
there goes
the camera
video.
goes out. All right, we're gonna try and remedy that.
You just side sipped and you knocked out the video.
I got my tech guy working on it right now. We'll be back.
Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky's
Good. Yeah,
working
get Ricky
overtime.
on it. Yeah, so where I was going with this is like I was trying to do work. Yesterday was Friday, and I'm sitting at my desk. I could not put my head down to do focus work without needing to run to the bathroom and blow my nose. And granted, I probably could have brought over some tissues or something, but yeah, I think the inconvenience of it all is just going to make a runny nose take the cake of all minor sickness symptoms.
Dude, the other thing that I point taken in your argument is with a runny nose, somebody can see you're a gross, sick person because you just have tissues stacked up all around you versus when you're congested, you can kind of hide it a little bit better. But if you're runny nose is much more apparent to other people.
But it keeps people away from you too. So it is kind of like maybe in that sense, it's a little bit of a superpower symptom because nobody will bother you when you have a runny nose.
Silver linings. I appreciate the positivity. Also, I got Ricky working a double shift right now, and he's not giving me a thumbs up right now. So the side sip might have broken the camera. I got him trying a few different things here, but
yeah, no, that's all right. And I mean, so I think to put a cap on our initial introduction of this wine, it's pretty good for the price point. I would say it airs for me a little bit on the sweet side. I would be nervous to get through this whole bottle, especially given that I'm a little under the weather. However, I do have my signature dish coming, so we'll have to keep sipping. It takes me back to my time in Lake Como. I'm picturing myself sitting on the balcony of the Grand Hotel Tremezzo overlooking the lake. If you know, you know. Wow. That is maybe the bougiest thing I could come up with. I have not stayed at the Grand Hotel Tremezzo, but Charlie, you should give that a Google when you get a chance.
Yeah,
it's pretty fire.
I was going to say to all the listeners feeling put out by that one, I'm right there with you. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. It sounds nice, though. It sounds great.
It's a good place to get an Aperol Spritz. Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh, I don't know. I might stick to the house white. But okay, so we got some weekend recap before we move to kind of our segment of the week. I'm happy to start unless you got something that's on the tip of your tongue.
Go ahead, Charlie. Let's get into it.
As you are well aware, we're in the midst of a bit of a splitwise debacle. In the last pod, we had mentioned how we were, we went up to the cabin together. We're splitting groceries, yada, yada, yada. And so everybody in this day and age, I feel, uses splitwise when you have more than 3 people going on a trip to something. And everybody's picking up stuff. There's I don't feel like anybody was avoiding spending money. Everybody knew they were getting their money back and it was going to be fair.
Yeah.
But for 2 weeks, starting the day after the trip ended, we had one of the people in our group saying, get your stuff into Splitwise. Let's get this figured out, which I loved because it's always nice when you can just put it behind you and either get your money or send your money off and be like, that's squared away. I don't have to worry about this anymore.
I kind of made the assumption, like it was evident and apparent that he had spent a lot of money, probably an outsized amount of money on this trip than everybody else, like just put his card down a few more times. And so it was in his best interest to settle up quickly because I'm sure he has cards to pay off, etc. And you and I, we put it in the day of.
Yeah, we got it done. And additionally, I mean, it's right after when rent is due. He was probably running a little tight. I mean, he certainly wasn't flush in that moment. But anyway, we have the other 3 people in the group say, we'll do it tomorrow. And then they start referring to themselves as the Tomorrow Gang. And this group, this affiliate of 3, this evil triumvirate, continues to take advantage of the trust of the 24-hour extension. I believe we did have 1 or 2 of the members of the Tomorrow Gang enter their expenses within the next 3 days. So beyond their extended time, but still within the realm of okay. Not great, but okay. And then we had 1 foul player who waited, what was the final total? 10 days, 11 days?
No, it was 2 weeks and 1 day.
2 weeks and 1 day. So it was
15 days delinquent.
And so, delinquent. Yeah, that's a great word for it. And so, mind you, this person who is pressing for people to get their money into the Splitwise has reminded people damn near every day of these 2 weeks and 1 day. And so finally we get to the breaking point, day 15. He says it again. What's the holdup? Like, let's go. And our delinquent friend says, wait, in the group chat. And I'm just waiting to see the next excuse that could come out. I mean, it's as simple as checking your bank statement, and it takes 2 total minutes. And he hits us with really just the most disrespectful move out of his back pocket. Let me download the app. Had not even done step 1A of the settling
he
up
had
process.
not downloaded the Splitwise app 15 days into the requested payback period. And mind you, our first friend who was sounding the alarms to get repaid, he had paid for like everybody's golf round. He had paid for multiple rounds of food, drink, etc. And he had been reminding everybody to pay probably once every like 3 days, very respectfully.
Yeah.
Like not pushing us by any means, but it was clear that he was on us.
And there was enough discourse in the group chat where it's impossible to miss these reminders. It wasn't like it was just one text that you see and you're like, okay, I'll do it, and then you forget. Like kind of impossible to not get it in. And so that was, I mean, it was equal parts terrible and hilarious, because then I have, what do we want to call the money requester? I feel like there's a better term for that, like the loan shark.
The loan shark.
Yeah, the loan shark then is texting me on the side, like angry emojis and stuff like that. And so ultimately it all gets settled up. But the funniest thing that occurred after that is our delinquent leader of the Tomorrow Boys only picked up one expense that he put in. So it was like very moot. It didn't really change the payouts. It did for him, of course, but
I mean, the reminders were coming out every 3 days. And when you're 15 days delinquent, that means you were reminded 5 separate times. And everybody else in this group chat is posting like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I don't know what we're waiting on. And then it gets to our one buddy, the loan shark, pretty much just started playing like bully ball. And it was like, you know what? Statute of limitations, like everybody's had enough time to put their expenses in. Like, let's just settle up. And we all kind of like lopped onto that, right?
I think I sent in statute of limitations because I was like, I kind of wanted to move forward too, and I just didn't know if a singular message would. I think what happened is I started sending in, everybody has it in, so we're good, let's pay up, and then the delinquent moved off the sidelines to get his in.
I do find it amazing that the delinquent offered the information that he had not downloaded the app yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's
was
crazy
private
work.
information he did not need to share.
No.
That was dastardly work.
Yeah. And the funny thing, that's just a small side note, is the delinquent and the loan shark, who you may imagine have this great tension, have been very successful fantasy football partners for a few years now. And so just that sort of wedge that you drive between each other right before the season starts, I think it won't end well for them, but we'll see. They always prove me wrong. So
that is a storyline we will continue to follow.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that was one. Just finances. Please be on top of it, people.
Yep. And maybe I'll share a quick one. I don't have too many eventful stories over the past week and a half, whenever the last time we recorded was, because, my 4th, I stayed home. And then this week I got sick in the middle of the summer, which is the dumbest thing that could happen to somebody, but it happened. But as I mentioned that I spent the 4th of July alone, I did get Lindy back on Saturday. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I got to make the most of this 4th of July holiday that I have. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I booked a hotel up in Tahoe, and I was like, we're going to go drive up there. And it's like 3-hour drive, so not bad. We get up there and it's the middle of a heat wave, which would deter a lot of people. However, Lake Tahoe is glacial water, and all I wanted to do was get into that water and swim.
So was it freezing?
No, it was probably, I'm so off with like water degrees. You know what I mean? Even the Pacific Ocean's probably like 50 something degrees, but it just feels like it's freezing. I bet Tahoe was like 60 something.
The cold plunge place I go to is like 40 to 44, and that's pretty cold.
Right. Like that's probably colder than most waters you'll be in, besides probably like Arctic waters. Yeah. I mean, for Tahoe, it was being warmed by the sun. I got in the water and I just spent so much time, which was fantastic. But the one thing that I did want to see when I was up in Tahoe was bears.
Did you see a bear?
I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What type of bear? Black bear?
Black bear. They only have black bears up in Tahoe.
Trash hunter bear. Not a dangerous bear.
Exactly. And that's kind of that's where my story is going. So night one, or only night I was up there, we had a great dinner. That's where I did the wine review that's posted on our Instagram account. And then we went back and we actually, just Lindy and I, played Scrabble out on our balcony of our hotel.
I don't know if we mentioned this, but we were playing Scrabble up at the cabin the other week, and you got the best of me in the games we played together. And then when I went to like the little league table of Scrabble, I ended up getting a game. But yeah, it was a disappointing week for me on the Scrabble front. I love Scrabble and Bananagrams.
I do too.
Both super fun.
I've actually created a little bit of a name for myself as being good at Scrabble. Like, I came home when I was in Minnesota, and my family was like, yeah, John always wins. And that was kind of unbeknownst to me, but I felt real good about that.
Dude, speaking of that, making a name for yourself in tile-based word games. In Grand Marais in 2021, I won a very modestly sized Bananagrams tournament. And ever since then, I consider myself the best Bananagrams player I know.
Charlie, I mean, what?
It wasn't sanctioned by any officials or anything, but I did win a tournament.
So was this at a cabin, or was this in like a, like a Legion Lions Club? Where are you playing this tournament, and against whom?
This was a timeshare. It was in a timeshare. It was a high school friend who was actually coincidentally my first friend in preschool, invited me up there. But then there was a few other families who were up there, and none of the other people my age wanted to play Bananagrams because they're like, Bananagrams is stupid. And so I played against all of the adults who every year when they go up there, they play Bananagrams and do this big tournament tilt, and I walked out of there number one. Wow. And so I consider myself the Grand Marais 2021 Bananagram champion.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll take that win every day. That's huge. Those games are so fun.
Very proud of myself.
Very few things stroke the ego more than winning in like a word game.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're just like, I'm so cerebral.
Yeah.
I'm so smart. Like, it's just such a stroke to like your intelligence ego to win one of those games.
Everybody else would have had a better chance if they were only as smart as I am, but they're not, unfortunately. So I'm going to win again. Dude, the other thing is when you go on a streak with those, it just continues. Your Scrabble ego, it won't even be your unwinding. I feel like the more you like treat yourself like you're this intellectual Scrabbler Bananagrammer, you just care that much more. Because like that's one of the biggest factors of every board game is the person who cares the most about winning is going to have a really good chance, because most people are like, I'm playing for fun. Like, no, I'm playing to win every single time. And mind you, within the rules, cheating, classless, it's not a win, So yeah, you're going to do well if you care. For all the middle schoolers listening out there who want to make a name for themselves on the Scrabble board, on the Bananagram board, go and hit the dictionary, hit the thesaurus, do other things, learn stuff. Don't be a cheater. That you can't go far at all if you're a cheater.
Do it the hard way.
Yeah. Put in the hard work. Then you'll feel good about it too.
Absolutely. And so my bear in Tahoe.
Yep.
Oh, that was a nice little tangent. This is going to wrap up pretty quickly, but you talked about how the black bear is the trash bear, the trash bandit, and I'm calling this bear the picnic table bandit. Lindy and I went on this little walk, and there's a huge commotion, and Lindy notices a bunch of people have their phones out recording. I didn't notice that, which is a little bothersome, like after the fact. Like, I should probably be like more mindful of my surroundings. But she's like, John, look at all this. And then I kind of like had that instinctual feeling like, oh, there's probably an animal, because people had circled around and like had their phones out and whatever. And so her and I like run to get a better view. Probably like a 2 to 3 year old black bear. So not small, but not big, is just chilling at this picnic table, just eating all the food, mucking up this poor family's picnic. And then finally, like, some lady who I think was probably involved with the picnic got the two tops of two trash bins and kind of like cracked them together, and the bear ultimately got spooked and ran off. But for me, who is wanting to see a black bear up in Tahoe, that was awesome. especially in broad daylight in a 90-degree day. I actually felt like that was pretty rare, and I was pretty lucky. So that was cool.
Did you get a look at what they put on their picnic? Like, was there honey? Was there maybe like some ice water or something that would draw the juvenile bear out?
I think for the bear, he or she grabbed the right food, but it is not what I would have grabbed if I was a bear.
Oh, okay. What did they grab?
A massive bag of pistachios.
Really? No. Oh, dude, that cannot be true.
That is true. Somebody had like
my God.
an industrial sized bag of pistachios at their picnic table.
Did it grab some rolled golds next?
No, literally not even a black bear would touch rolled golds.
No, I don't think so either.
Those things are so bland and dry and gross.
It would put it into an early hibernation. It's not a good thing for a bear. Dude, also when you were talking about young bears, I feel like I had heard a term for young bears that's different from just like a 1-year-old bear. And so I was looking it up.
A cub?
A cub, yeah, but a yearling. Have you heard that before?
No. Specifically for bears? Like a yearling?
I think so. I'm looking at black bear yearling stock photos right now. That's awesome, though. I can't remember. I guess the last time I would have seen a bear would have been in the Boundary Waters, but that was 2 years ago now. They're always awesome. I mean, we see them sometimes in Pine City.
So I've heard. I heard 2 of our buddies, when they were at your cabin, had just brewed their morning coffee and were going to go step out onto your deck. And they actually just were like, wait, what's that? And it was a black bear sitting on your deck.
Yeah.
And apparently it was trying to get into the hummingbird feeder.
Yeah, exactly that. And it was before I had gotten up there. It was when I was working as a dishwasher and I couldn't get my shift off. And so they went up there a day before me. And I miss out on first this badass black bear sighting that would have been so cool. And then 2, they rafted down Snake River and they were met. It had not rained at all. The water level was garbage. And so they're not moving at all. And then it got super dark and buggy and they were nowhere close to where my cabin was. So they had to pull off in a random person's yard and like beg him for a ride back to my cabin.
Yeah. Oh, no. So, and it gets so buggy there too.
Speaking of that, one of the things I did do earlier today, actually, so I was up in Pine City with my dad to install this staircase down to the beach. It had been raining all week. You're already aware of how buggy it was down there, but he was talking to me and he's like, this will be a 30-minute job. This will be quick. And so when we put it in today, it ends up taking at least an hour and 30 minutes in total. And we're just sitting at the beach getting obliterated by mosquitoes. We're pulling the stairs out of a patch of poison ivy. He finds a tick on him during this process as well. So we're like just kind of subject to like all sorts of things you don't like. And then at the end of it, we drive into town and we hadn't set a tee time, but there were and we were like, we're going to put in the staircase early and then go into town and play golf. No tee times.
Dude.
It was just a failure.
It was just a workman-like trip, and then you just drove back.
Yeah. So that wasn't great, but ties in very loosely to my next story, which is one of the things that was fun in this last week is there's the Twin Cities Pro-Am tournament just started. It's like a 10-week summer league thing in Minneapolis. It's held at Minnehaha Academy.
Which sport?
For basketball. So like Tyus Jones, like Minnesota NBA players come back and will play in it. So Chet Holmgren, Jalen Suggs. So we went and did that, but we also were inspired ourselves to test out our grit on the hardwood. And so playing some basketball, but this is where it meets Bruce because it reminded me of a story where I don't even know I'll just start telling the story and you can make of it what you will. But when I was maybe a year ago, I say to him, you want to play basketball? And my dad is just over 70. So I was very happy because he never says yes to that. And he was like, yeah, let's play. We'll play some one-on-one. So we go to the St. Paul campus U of M gym. It's just me and him on the court. And first of all, he shows up wearing jeans. We had agreed to play basketball and go to the gym, and he's there in jeans. So I'm already worried. I don't know what the hell he's thinking. Also, mind you, today when we showed up to the golf course, he was wearing a swimsuit. So it's kind of in his... I'm not even kidding. It's kind of like in his bag to do these types of things. But anyway... We're playing basketball. We start playing basketball, and it's going exactly how I want it to. I'm getting a couple buckets. He's struggling. and then he weaves his belt out of his jeans and fortunately doesn't pull his pants down, but starts using the belt both on offense and defense and starts hitting me with it. And like slapping at the ball and like doing anything. Like you can imagine how that would be distracting and also effective as a form of defense. So I'm saying to him, after like my 20th lashing, this belt's got to go. I'm done playing basketball if you're going to keep hitting me with a belt. And he goes, okay. Well, it's street ball. You never played street ball before? And I was saying, nobody plays street ball by hitting each other with a belt. That's not what street ball is.
Sounds like he does.
Well, yeah, I guess. But the thing about it is he grew up in Mendota Heights when he was a kid. We grew up in the same area. We had the same street ball. And so nobody was ever hitting each other with belts when I was playing street ball.
Well, that's because they didn't wear jeans to the course.
I don't know why he was. You make a good point.
If you show up in jeans, you get to make use of all of your apparel.
I didn't expect you to be a Bruce sympathizer on this one, but I starting to see the light, I suppose. All to say, he doesn't know what street ball is, and also it's been fun to play basketball again in the last week.
So here's a question to you. Obviously, our NBA players that are playing for Team USA in the Olympics are going to crush and dominate.
Yeah.
Do you think that if one player on the opposing team against Team USA basketball was able to play Mendota Heights street ball rules and use a belt for defense and offense, that another team in the world would stand a chance? Or do you think the United States would still be able to roll every team they play?
I think if you give that belt to a member of the Spanish or Canadian team, I think the U.S. is in for a long 48 minutes on the hardwood. Because it is a disaster, dude. And especially in the hands of somebody who's not 72 years old. Like you could, I mean, pretty much first order of business, you just roll up and smack LeBron over the head with a belt. That's one, bam, that's a steal right there. Like it's like having Zach Edey or like some monster man down at the hole. You are afraid to get close to this guy. You know he's altering shots. You know he's poking at the ball. It's not good. And on offense, it's equally as terrible. Like, he just rolls right up the lane and slaps you with the belt and takes his free look.
Gives you some extra inches, too, to block. I would give it to France. I would give it to Rudy Gobert.
Dude, and is Wemby playing on that French team, too? You give it to Wemby with a belt would be
He's like
bad news.
7'6", right?
Yeah, dude. His wingspan is like even longer, too. He would be unstoppable if he had a belt in his hands.
Okay, so it's U.S. versus France, but Wemby has a belt. Who wins that game?
Well, I think especially, so Bruce was not wearing a Louis Vuitton belt, but if I assume Wemby, that's probably what he would have, and those have that big buckle on it too. If he had that belt, it's wraps. France has the gold medal, and there's no question about it. Not to be unpatriotic, but that's just, the belt is an advantage. And now we will move into our segment of the week suggested by a fan. And I thought this was a good one. So we talked about this a little bit. Worst roommate stories. This is not, in the way it was suggested, it was not clear if it is the biggest grievances a roommate has done onto us being bad roommates to other people, but just bad roommate stories. I have a bunch of them, I feel like. And I guess, I'm sure, John, you feel the same way, but disclaimer as we get into these stories, I don't ever feel like I've had a bad roommate in my life. And any good person, good roommate can have a slip. And as I'm sure you will also provide, most of my stories are actually me being a bad roommate, but there are some to highlight of bad roommate moments. But that's all they are. They're moments in a long relationship that is good. So if you're hearing this and you hear your story, I still love you and always have.
Yeah. And hopefully you still love us.
Yeah, that too.
To caveat, Charlie and I were lucky enough to be true roommates our sophomore year. We bunked together in our house that we were living in, and we
bunked together is like might lead people to believe
it was pretty damn close.
Yeah, it was close,
together.
but I feel like
we were separated by 2 feet of carpet.
Yeah. Yeah, we bunked together. I take it back.
We pretty much bunked together.
Yeah.
Our sophomore year, and then we lived together both our junior and senior year.
So I want to start. I'm just going to go like slightly chronologically here. So my freshman year, random roommate at Madison, super nice guy. We did not have a lot in common. He grew up in Wisconsin. Really the only thing we had that we like to do together is like occasionally watch the Brewers. And so we both know we're not going to really stay that close after the year, but call it 3/4 of the way through the year, he shows me this milk carton that he got. And our only shared activity, right, is watching the Brewers together once every month and a half.
I can't believe you watched the Brewers. You are like the worst baseball fan
I
I've
know,
ever
but I was
met,
like,
dude.
whatever. And so anyway, this milk carton he had, I believe, so it had artwork, and I believe this is going to give it away a little bit. The first milk carton had some artwork of the Brewers stadium. So I go, "Oh, that's pretty cool. That art on that milk carton." And he was like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." And so then fast forward 4 or 5 weeks, he starts accumulating and not throwing away these milk cartons that have like little art things on them. And so then the room starts to accumulate empty, stinky milk cartons that are like rotting in there because I offhand at one point said, "That's cool."
Oh no.
That was, I felt, not a good roommate moment. But at the same time, I wasn't prepared to kind of like stomp on his heart and be like, "Get rid of all these milk cartons, dude. This is disgusting." Because we were never like close enough for me to break some bad news to him either. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe that relationship. It's like we were just
You were
living in the same room.
getting on. Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys lived in
yeah.
the same room. I think it was actually a very similar living situation to me and my roommate. We met over Facebook before going to Madison, and he's just very friendly, but he's going to keep to himself. He's not looking to go to Madison for the same reasons I was going to go. The weirdest thing he did, in my opinion, is he would sit cross-legged all the time. I don't know
Yeah,
about
that's an
you, but like
issue.
that's just bizarre to me.
I also don't like people who sit, not people, but just to observe this. If you sit on your own feet when you're sitting in a chair, I feel that is strange. You seen that?
He was like my size. Like he was like more than 6 feet tall. He was like probably 200 plus pounds, which I'm not, but like he's a big guy.
Yeah.
He would always like get comfortable.
Was he wearing pants or shorts that made that inappropriate too? Like kind of 5-inch inseam shorts and hit you with a cross leg? Like just you and him in the dorm?
Thing is, he's always wearing like loose fitting basketball shorts. Like it's just showing too much thigh.
Yeah. Well, college is an exploratory time, and
Well, so yeah, I mean, this site that I walk in on is him doing just that. Like one of my least favorite activities. He's sitting cross-legged on the futon. He's wearing nothing but his basketball shorts, and he is massaging this girl. It's still burnt into my head, like this picture. Like she had a blanket over her back. He was wearing nothing but his like basketball shorts. I just see like the back of her head with like this big blanket over her, and he's giving her a massage. Mood lighting in the room, and there's
Was there a
music
candle
playing.
going?
Likely somewhere. I don't even know if I hung around long enough for that. This is after a game day. Like I'd been drinking. I was just ready to go to bed, and I walk in on that, and I'm like, there's just no shot I'm dealing with this, period. So I just closed the door and I went, I don't even know what I did. I just went on my business.
I mean, I think you did the right thing, truth be told. He's probably on his podcast right now. He's probably saying, I had a good roommate. He just bailed out when I was doing this massage. Like, that's cool.
This wasn't a girlfriend. Like, this was no like usual suspect.
Dude, he was probably loaded too and just found some like random, it's like holding up a sign on State Street, free massages and Smith. I feel like both of those are like slight appetizer to an entree of truly disturbing roommate situations. And unfortunately, I'm looking at our notes right now. A lot of these worse roommate situations are things that you and I committed against other people. And not the other way around.
We were not great roommates. Looking back on this, like trying to come up with funny roommate stories where we were slighted, it was more us slighting other roommates.
Yeah, and just being like very disrespectful of their space and items and priorities and feelings. So it's tough. It's tough. We were talking about this a little bit before the call. I think we didn't have a rep of being bad roommates because we're both relatively easygoing, like fun loving, but we also didn't do anything to become good roommates. Like we weren't the best cleaners. Like we didn't really do a bunch of like acts of kindness out of nowhere for people.
We were not thoughtful, which is something I grapple with to this day.
I think if somebody was down bad, I'm sympathetic, empathetic. Like if I realize somebody's in a bad place or not necessarily imperiled, but like could use some companionship, like that's where I have value, is like I'll recognize that and reach out and like be there for people. But in terms of like coming home to a cleaned apartment with fresh flowers in the vase, like that's not the roommate I was.
You and me are not providing that.
No, not at all, dude. And so, I mean, maybe I don't know if you have one in specific in the house. I mean, I don't really. That would be the next chronological one.
Living in the house is just the frat house. We should just move on.
Yeah,
we could spend a whole podcast on the stuff that went down there, but honestly, that was the one place where everything was pretty much a slight against us from like a roommate standpoint.
For
like
sure.
We got absolutely chewed up and spit out by that house. Like our room was a disaster at all times.
All of our clothes smelled like cigarettes for a year. And it wasn't our fault. Okay, so moving past that, we then have City View, her junior year apartment. I just thought of a new grievance that I committed against the apartment that I'd be happy to share if you want.
Pause it for a second. We just got to set the stage because City View, it was set up to fail. This was set up to just be a disaster from day one. This was a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, and we decided to go against the lease and illegally pack it with 7 dudes. So we were like way over capacity to begin with.
It was a very nice apartment, honestly, and it would have been for 5 people.
I split, and then our buddy who was the
loan collector split.
The loan shark also split, and then you and our 2 other buddies had their own room.
So 5 bedrooms. We just had too much testosterone, too much. I mean, like this is also all the year that we are all legal to drink. So yeah, a lot of nonsense going on in there. And this maybe led to our greatest kind of tragedy of the commons situation where, you would take a little something from your neighbor and maybe not fully reimburse them. And I know that's one of the stories we both have. But just to set the stage as an appetizer to this one, I just remembered. Do you remember my pizza mess incident? Do you recall this? City View in Madison is right above this like super hotspot pizza place, Ian's Pizza. I'm coming back after who knows what, like grossly overserved. And I take my pizza, but I also, I guess, took a full shaker of their red pepper flakes from Ian's. And what is clear is on my way into the building, I broke the red pepper shaker. And I'm not talking about like a little shaker. You can't see what I'm doing, but I mean, it's really like the size of 3/4 of the wine bottle here. Like it's a huge shaker. And the reason I got dinged on this was I was like allowing red pepper flakes to fall in a path to the elevator, and then from a path from the top floor where we were living to our room. And so it's impossible. Like you look at that and you're like, well, I know who did it. I know who the pizza menace is.
You're like a Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah.
Just dropping
like,
clues everywhere.
So obvious. And then I remember, I'm pretty sure somebody, I can't remember which roommate this was, but they said, I didn't realize that the top of it was broken. So I was trying to put red pepper flakes on this pizza, but it was like a mountain of red pepper flakes because it's a broken top. And then I took a bite of it and they said, I literally shed a tear at how hot the pizza was, which is like, and then they find us too, which like, of course I paid, but like that like wasn't a good roommate moment necessarily. It's funny though, I guess.
That was funny. The sleuthing behind it. There was no way we weren't going to get caught. I mean, when you're in college, you deny everything until you're like absolutely caught.
Yeah, that one's pretty indefensible.
And Charlie, we're going to have to leave this segment as a little bit of a cliffhanger. We will definitely pick it up next week.
We got to throw in one more. I think you got to go. I think you lead the way on the milk incident. That has to be in this one.
Yeah, it does. So this is same apartment, City View. And we had one roommate who he'll know who he is, but he's studying to become an investment banker. So he was putting in more effort, more hours than the rest of us. You know, he would come home tired. He would come home burdened, stressed, everything that comes along with becoming an investment banker.
Always on calls, always like at the library to the wee hours of the night, mind you. This is like every day of the week.
The one thing that he took great pleasure in was his sweet tooth. This man had a sweet tooth like none other, and he just loved late at night coming back and having like a sweet little snack.
I think there was 4 people in this operation. Me, you, we'll call one of these people Gunther, and then the other one we'll call
Wilmer.
Yeah. Me, you, Wilmer, and Gunther.
Okay, wait, we got to set the scene though. So this other friend, the investment banking friend, he had just bought himself a massive bottle of 2% milk. And we weren't quite sure why, but we had a full jug of 2% milk in our fridge.
Yep.
And our roommate Gunther notices this milk and goes, "Oh, nice. We've got to make milkshakes."
He wanted it was like post-workout smoothies is kind of how I remember it.
Maybe
like,
that's what it was. Yeah, we were all at the gym.
But to be fair, it was closer to a milkshake. Gunther, I think, had it out for this roommate in this moment because he insisted, and I was not going to say no, that we use all of the milk. Like, we really load up milk into each of these, like...
all of the milk. And I remember we were like, wait, we should maybe leave a little bit. And I think, like, verbatim, he said, "F it," and then proceeded to just fill our glasses with milk.
Yeah. So we make up these smoothies. We're feeling good. We're like, get your protein after the gym. Mind you, this is not a gallon of milk, or I don't know if it was like the smaller size, but this was like uncracked. We cracked it and killed the entire thing.
I mean, we go on to make these smoothies, and they were actually terrible. Like, they were kind of a huge failure.
Yeah, they were too milky. That was the problem.
Too milky.
Yeah. It's like a freakish amount of milk. This high achiever comes home from the library in his typical fashion, like probably gets back around 2 a.m. and his sweet tooth option of choice that night, which in retrospect starts to align with the milk he purchased, was a 6-pack of Insomnia cookies, which was like just a nicer like cookie shop in Madison.
Big, thick, gourmet cookies. And this was like how he treats himself after a heavy week of
just
study.
Puts in freak hours. All he wants is to come home, unwind with a little milk and cookies, and slide into his sheets and do it all again the next day. He comes back, Insomnia cookies in hand. For the first time in his entire miserable day, he's smiling. He knows a reward is coming. And he opens the fridge. There ain't no milk. He ain't dunking them. And then maybe he opened the recycling and saw there's an empty gallon of milk right there. What the hell happened? I just remember there was like a conflict about it.
There was a conflict. It all came to a head. You're right. He woke us up. He was pissed.
Oh yeah, he was pissed.
I mean, what are we gonna do? Like, tail between our legs. Luckily, Gunther just did not care that much.
That was the thing. Gunther was an ultimate leader on this because not only did he spearhead the milk stealing, but he did not care about the milk stealing, which makes, in that moment, he was a very good roommate to us because not only did he deflect blame, but he just refused that blame existed. He was like, actually, he
didn't accept
it. What? We stole $2 of milk? Get over it, dude. You still got 6 cookies. You're fine. Like, go to bed. Like, it's just like so brutal. And so it was, I mean, naturally, it's hilarious too. I mean, he probably felt even worse after the confrontation because Gunther buries him and then we start laughing and like, then we go back to bed. Like, that's a bad night. That's us being bad roommates right there.
These stories do not shed great light on us, but luckily Gunther definitely shouldered that one.
And I will say we almost need to make a name for the investment banker boy, but this paints him as this hardworking hero of the story who's maligned and disrespected by his roommates, which in this case he absolutely is.
We'll call him Boondock.
And Boondock, it's not the end of Boondock. This will be our cliffhanger because Boondock comes back with a vengeance for me in our next apartment, which we will cover in the next episode. Hopefully, we'll get all the names straight. But unless there's anything else, thanks everybody for listening. Follow us: Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, TikTok, Instagram. Check us out. We clip a lot of this stuff and also do additional wine reviews. So your support anywhere and everywhere is much appreciated. And have a great week, everybody.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it.
And keep your eyes out for Villa Borghetti Pinot Grigio, product of Italy, DOC. It's good. I want to circle back to it. I drank more of it than I usually do. We're talking about a half bottle, just short of a half bottle.
I put back a half bottle. I'm under the weather.
It's pretty
and I'm
damn
this.
drinkable. It's smooth. It's crisp. The flavors are not confusing.
Yeah, I liken it to taking my medicine. This is going to make me healthy. This and my signature dish of mac and cheese, that's going to revive me tonight.
I believe. All right, feel better, John.
Yep.
All right, take care.